Hey there and welcome. Today we're going to be making the third block in our Christmas sampler Quiltalong. I'm using fabrics from Laurie Holt that are called Hometown Holiday, which are not your traditional Christmas fabrics, but I'm enjoying them and I think it's going to make a lovely quilt. Now the first block we made was a simple 4-patch. We just sewed 4 squares together and we made the simplest of blocks. The second block was also a 4-patch in which we turned it into a rail fence by sewing 2 rails, I'm going to call them, together, 2 rectangles together, and sewed them together in a 4-patch. Now today we're making another 4-patch, but we're not doing squares or rectangles. We're going to do something else. I have picked out my fabrics for this next block, and you're going to need your background fabric and then 2 what I'm calling feature fabrics. We're going to be making half square triangles. Now half square triangle is a very well-known block that's used in lots of quilting blocks. I was considering making a giant half square triangle, but I thought no, that's going to be massive. So we're actually going to be making 4, and we're going to be sewing them together into a 4-patch. So like I said, we're making another 4-patch today. Now what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to cut 2 7-inch squares out of the background fabric and 1 7-inch square out of each of the feature fabrics. And I have done that already. So I'll just grab mine, and here we go. These are all nicely cut out. Now you might be wondering how you're going to cut out a 7-inch square if you, like most people, like most quilters, only have a 6.5-inch ruler. So what I did was I grabbed another ruler and I just used it to sit along the fabric to make that extra 1/2 inch. So I sat it here, cut on this side and cut on same way that way. So you don't need to buy different widths of rulers. If you have a different width of ruler, then that's fine, but you can also use 2 rulers. Some people cut off the cutting board, which depending on your cutting board could be okay. I tend not to, because it's not all cutting boards, not necessarily straight or accurate. But so this is basically how I did it. I just added a little 1/2 inch here from this ruler and cut it out. Okay, so once you've cut out your 4 7-inch squares, we are going to do a technique. Now let me move back. Basically, a half square triangle is putting 2 triangles, sewing 2 triangles together. So you'd cut this in half, and you'd cut this one in half, and you'd sew it together like that. But if we cut along the line, or a diagonal line from corner to corner, it's going to be stretchy because we're cutting on the bias. So a better way of doing it is the way I'm going to show you today, and which most quilters do. So we're going to take this and we're going to grab a pen, any pen, doesn't matter what pen or pencil, and we're going to draw a diagonal line from this corner to that corner. So I'm just going to line it up corner to corner and draw a line. Now with this block, it is quite important, because I haven't allowed that much space, it's important to use a proper 1/4 inch seam. If you're not confident with your 1/4 inch seams, you can take another pen, a different color, or a pencil, and you can take your ruler, put the 1/4 inch line on the line you just drew from corner to corner, and you can draw another line, and sew down that line. So what we're going to be doing, we're not sewing down this line here, but we're sewing 1/4 of an inch away from that line. So we're lining up our foot with that on the left, and then we're sewing 1/4 inch line. Like I said, if you're not confident with doing that, you can draw a line on both sides, 1/4 inch line. I'll just do that for you. And then you're going to put it on right sides together. And let's have a look at the lines again. We're going to be sewing on these pencil lines, and later we'll be cutting this pen, the line with the pen. All right. Now, if you're confident that you've got 1/4 inch seam, you don't need to draw these 2 lines. But it's just for if you're an absolute beginner and you're not sure whether your foot is giving you that 1/4 inch seam, just do that. Otherwise, you're just lining up your foot with that line there. So we're going to grab some pins. We are going to pin it, and then I'm going to take it to the sewing machine, and I'll show you what I mean by lining up your 1/4 inch foot with that line there. Okay, here we are at the sewing machine. Now, if I just use my pencil here, I hope you can see that. So this is the left side of my 1/4 inch foot. I've got a Bernina, so I'm using foot number 37. And we're going to line that up with the line that we drew the first one with a pen. Okay, now as long as your foot is nicely up against there, you should be sewing 1/4 inch. So let's just see. I'm going to hold on to the thread, if I can get hold of it. Come on, there we go. And I'm going to get started. And if you see that, you can see that I'm actually going nicely on that pencil line that I drew. That's 1/4 inch. So my foot is doing really well. Of course, I need to keep it straight. Just going to put my needle down. I like to have my needle down in the down position when I sew. For quilting, it just helps keep the fabric in place. So normally I wouldn't draw this line, but if you're not confident about your 1/4 inch seam allowance, then go ahead and draw that second line there, and then you can be sure that you've got an accurate 1/4 inch seam. All right, going to the end. Just going to cut that off. Needle up, grab my thread, and I'm going to come down the other way and do the same thing. This time I don't need pins. I've taken them out already. I don't need pins because this is keeping it in place. And that's done. So you can see I've pretty much sewn on the pencil lines, but I'm 1/4 inch away from this. And now this line here, the pen line, is where we're going to cut. So I'll take you back to the cutting board and we'll do that. Okay, we're back at the cutting board, and we're now going to cut along that line. You can use scissors if you want. I'm just going to use my rotary cutter. I'm just going to put that on there. Cut that. Alrighty, and then when you open them up, we have a half square triangle. Now we're going to set the seams. So let me grab my little ironing thing here. Put all of this out of the way. And I've got my baby iron today. I'm just going to set the seam. Set both of them together. And then we're going to press to the dark side, away from the background fabric. So you can sort of finger press if you want first. And then press. Same with this one, we already set it. I'm going to press towards the dark. And there you have it. We have 2 half square triangles. Now, we're just going to check and make sure that they're 6.5 inch square. So we're going to grab a ruler, and most rulers will have this 45-degree angle here. And we're going to sit that on top of the seam we just sewed. And you can see that it's pretty good. We could trim it up just a little bit. And so to do that, you've got to make sure that all of this, like here's the 6.5 inch line, we could trim a little bit off of it if we wanted to. So keeping this diagonal line, 45 degrees, on the bit we sewed, you can go like that, go like that, and as you can see, there's not much coming off. So as long as you've sewn that 1/4 inch seam, you should be fine, and you don't really need to do this, but if you want to be pedantic, you can do that. Again, flipping it around, putting that back on the diagonal, going this way, and going that way, and that's pretty much done. It is hard to get that top bit here when I'm sitting down. But anyway, that one's trimmed. I'm just going to have a quick look at this one, see how that one's doing. And you can see that we could trim a little bit off of here and off of there, so we're just going to go ahead and do that. Flip it around, then we're going to match that up, and the 6.5 inch line here and the side of the ruler there, and just take this little teeny bit off the side. And here we have 2 perfect, half square triangles. It's winter here at the moment, and I'm not used to wearing anything with sleeves, and I keep getting things caught up in it. Okay, we're going to repeat the same process with these 2. I'm going to sit them up there. I'm going to draw a line from corner to corner. This time I'm just drawing the one line because I'm happy. That my 1/4 inch foot is giving me a nice 1/4 inch seam. I'm going to put them right sides together, pin them. I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch on this side, flip it around and sew a 1/4 inch on that side, and I'll come back here again. All right, here we go. That one's done, so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to cut on the blue line, and then we're going to set the seams. and press to the dark side. My son's just gotten home, so he's in the kitchen making a bit of noise. I might just go and shut the door, see if that helps a bit. All right, I'm going to trim these blocks up the same way we did with the yellow ones, and I'll come back to you. I've trimmed them all up so we can put the ruler and the rotary cutter away. Won't be needing them anymore. And now we're going to lay these half square triangles out in the direction we want them to go, or in the place we want them to go. So we're going to just put them together in a 4-patch like this, sort of all going that way. Basically, you probably know the drill already. We're going to move that one, put it on top of there, and sew 1/4 inch down here. I'm going to pin it. Pin one on either side and then one in the middle. And then I'm going to take it to the sewing machine and I'm going to sew down there. So that's sewn together with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and we can open that up and put it back where it belongs, and we're going to do the same thing with this. I'm not going to show you how I'm sewing it this time, just to save some time for the video. You can go back to the other 2 videos to show you, to see how I've done it, but we're basically doing it the same way. So this one goes over there. I'm going to pin 3 pins in. I prefer to have more pins rather than not enough pins, because I hate unpicking. So I always pin more than I probably need to. All right, I'm going to sew that and come back. And that's that one done. Open it up. All right, so now we're going to have to press, and we want to press the seams, these seams here, one to that side and one to that side. So I'm going to press this one, the top one, to the red, and this bottom one I'm going to press towards the background fabric. But first, of course, we need to set the seams. So let's grab my little ironing mat. I'm going to set the seam on this one, and then I'm going to finger press towards the red, and that's that one done. And then this one, I need to set the seam. And then, because we pressed that one that way, we're going to press this one this way. So first we're going to finger press it to the right. And use the iron. Okay. All right. Now we are going to take this top one, flip it down, and we're going to sew along there. Now, just a reminder that we want to get these 2 bits here nicely nested together, and because we've ironed the seams in opposite directions, we should be able to do that nice and easily, and you can feel it with your finger and your thumb. And then I like to use a pin. I go on one side and a diagonal on the other side to keep both seams in place. And then I'll pin one here, one in the middle, one here, and one in the middle. And I'll go and sew that and I'll bring it back. Okay, here it is. Look at that, it's not too bad, that center. First we're gonna set the seam. And then I think I'm going to press it down towards the darker fabrics. So like that. Oh. Away from the background fabric. And there we have our half square triangle block. This is what it looks like from the back. Nice and neat. So half square triangles are a very handy technique or block, whatever you want to call it, to learn as a quilter, because these units or blocks are used in a lot of other quilt blocks, and next fortnight we're actually going to be doing a few more, and we're going to turn them into my favorite quilt block. So I hope to see you then. In the meantime, thanks very much for watching. Oh, I just thought I'd bring you back and show you what the blocks look like on the design wall. So on the bottom row we've got the Christmas blocks that we're making here on YouTube, and on the top row we've got the ones that I'm making on my blog, Days Filled with Joy. And you can go there to read, if you prefer to read patterns, you can go there and you can read it instead of listening or watching it here on YouTube. All right, I'll catch you next time. Bye.